What are the best times to trade? This is what we'll see today.
Hello to all COF students! I am Marie-Litovinas Vegis translator, and it is with great pleasure that I will teach you the basics of Forex. Before starting the adventure, it is important to remember and remind yourself of another sentence. I am and I remain a student. We are going to repeat this often to you to remind you that you are a student learning a skill that will serve you, be useful to you, and will pay you for the rest of your life. It is important to take your time and go at your own pace. Always keep a winning mind frame and you will succeed in the Forex industry. After finishing this video, you should have a very good understanding of the following questions. Feel free to pause the video to take notes and remind yourself, everyone is progressing at their own pace and do not compare yourself to others. In this video, we're going to use a specific vocabulary. Make sure to note all these words of vocabulary because they will prove very useful for the remaining of your training. Let's start with the word spread. You will often hear this word. The spread is what your broker charges you. It's the price difference between two currencies. For example, if you buy the euro against the US dollar, the difference between the exchange rate is the spread when your broker bills you. In this image, your broker takes 1.4 pip of your trade. So if you want to know how many pips your broker is going to take you, you just need to subtract between the quotation of two currencies you want to exchange. Now let's look at the word volatility. You can observe volatility on the charts by the movements that it will perform. We say that there is a high volatility when market conditions start to change quickly, when we can observe big movement on the graph. It's a trader's paradise, the best time to trade because there are many opportunities to grab. On the contrary, it is said that there is low volatility when market conditions are slow, that there are no big movement on the graph, and at the moment it is more a nightmare for traders because there is not much opportunity to grab. This is the worst time to trade. When you observe low volatility, stay out of the market. Now let's talk about liquidity. This is what market participants represent on a particular trade. We say that there is a low liquidity when there are not many participants on the market. It is the worst time to trade. On the contrary, we say that there is a strong liquidity when there are a lot of participants on the market. This is the best time to trade. There is usually a lot more liquidity during important economical announcements, which is why it is important to take an interest in them. Whether you look at the information or not, it's good to know when some major events will happen, so you can be prepared. The last word of vocabulary is the word volume. It represents the volume of exchanges put in place by the market participants. A high volume is when the participants make a lot of exchanges on one pair. A small volume is when they do not make a lot of exchanges. Some currency pairs will have higher volumes depending on the session in which you're going to trade. For example, during holiday periods, the end of the London session, the beginning of the Sydney session, there is a very small volume, few exchanges are made. Now let's talk about the different trading sessions. During these sessions, what is the best time to trade? The first thing to know is that there are 4 main trading sessions. There are smaller ones inside each of them, but we'll talk about the 4 main ones. You see them in this picture, look at them closely, remember them, take notes, we will talk about each of them. Let's start with the Sydney session. In the Forex market, the Sydney session is officially the opening of a trading day. It's the smallest and quietest of the sessions. The pairs with the biggest volume you will see in this market is the AUD, the dollar Australian, and the NZD, the New Zealand dollar. It is these currencies that will have the largest volumes of exchange because this session simply corresponds to the economy of their country. You see the schedules at the bottom of the image. Sydney session starts at 10 p.m. and ends at 7 a.m. Paris time. After the Sydney session, let's move on to the Tokyo session. It starts at midnight and ends at 9 a.m. Paris time. This is the second session of the Forex market. Tokyo is the world's third largest trading center, representing 6% of the transactions in the Forex market. Indeed, the JPY is the third most traded currency in all Forex. Obviously, the yen is the most traded currency during this period, so this means that there is a high volume on JPY pairs. The Sydney and Tokyo sessions are part of the session called the Asian session. It's a session with low liquidity and low volume. Your broker will take bigger spreads on this one because there are few participants on the market ready to trade. Of course, you can have a good exchanges on this session, but it is not the place to generate great profits and you will pay more spreads. Now let's talk about the biggest session in the whole Forex, the London session. It starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 5 p.m. Paris time. This is the third official session in its chronological sense of a trading day and is the biggest and most volatile of all sessions. The affected pairs are the pound sterling, the euro, and the Swiss franc. The London session also corresponds to the European session. It is the financial center trading historically. Indeed, Europe has always been the center of trading. 34% of all related Forex are happening here. You will therefore see a very high liquidity, high exchange volumes, and low spreads. You will also see important economic announcements during this session. Eyes will be on these pairs, whatever currencies we trade them with, like the pound sterling and the dollar or the pound and the yen. We are therefore on a favorable period to generate profits. We advise you to plan your trades before, during the Asian session for example, because the London session is not a planning period, it's a period where you have to be ready to take a stand, so get ready. Just after the London session, we have the New York session. It's also one of the biggest Forex session. It starts at 1 p.m. and ends at 10 p.m. Paris time. This is the fourth and last session that marks the end of a trading day, even though Forex operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's the end of a cycle and we're going back to the Sydney session after this one. 85% of trades involve the US dollar, so you can expect great movements during the New York session. Important economic announcements will take place at the beginning of the New York session. The pairs that will be drastically affected and where you will observe an important volatility are the US dollar and the Canadian dollar pairs. It will be these pairs that will create the most movement, high volatility, low spreads during this session, and high volumes will take place, but we can observe around 6 p.m. a loosening and we will explain why. We talked about the 4 different trading sessions, so what is the best time to trade? The best time to trade will be during the overlap of 2 sessions. There are 2 main overlaps on which you should pay attention on. The first is the overlap of London and New York sessions. This is by far the best overlap. It is with the most liquidity. You will have a large number of economic announcements popping up from United States, from all European pairs, London, and all these pairs will be part of it. So a lot of announcement that forces the market to move. The second is the overlap between the Tokyo session and the London session, which is also a good overlap, even though the London-New York thrust is the better. Of course, you will be able to make profits on any period of session. However, it is important to note that during the overlap of the Sydney and Tokyo session, this is not a good time to trade, because their exchanges represent a low volatility. You can see very clearly in this picture the overlap of the London and New York session and the Tokyo and London session. There is also the overlap of the Sydney and Tokyo session, but it represents rather the Asian session. It is a quiet session, few economic announcements appear, and this is not a time to make big profits. The worst times to trade are after the closing of the London session, during the New York session, around 6 p.m. Paris time, when the overlap stops. Also, during the start of the Sydney session, this is not a good time. When the New York session closes and that the Sydney session opens, this is not the right time at all to trade, like almost the entire Asian session. Also, when there is no overlap and during the long holidays, this is a very bad time. Here is a concrete example on this chart. Here we will focus on a new word of vocabulary, consolidation. Consolidation is when the price oscillates up and down in a small area and that there is not much going on in the market. The orange rectangles you see on the screen are examples of consolidation. If you trade during this period, you will constantly observe prices going up and down without achieving a specific goal, so it is best not to take position. As for the end of the London session, when the overlap ends at 6 p.m., the market slows, nothing much happens. The gray rectangle is an area where the market is evolving significantly. We can observe this movement especially during overlaps. Now you should be able to answer and understand the following questions. Read them and answer them quietly. As soon as you finish, go to the next video and remember, you are and you'll always remain a student.